I'm Stuart McIntosh with the BBC News. Hello. An operation to send in aid and evacuate residents from the southern Ukrainian city of Mariupol has been frustrated for a second day in a row. The regional governor has accused Russia of breaking its promises to allow a humanitarian corridor for the besieged city. Anna Foster in Lviv has the latest details.
Throughout this conflict over the last few weeks, we've seen these humanitarian corridors be proposed, and then we've seen firing continue. We heard at the start of the week, Ukraine said they were going to stop trying to do this week because they said, intelligence information that Russia would try to shoot, shell, bomb fleeing civilians. A lot of it, I think, is about the battle, particularly between Russian and Ukrainian forces around Mariupol. Neither wants to stand down, neither wants to stand back, but there are tens of thousands of civilians who are living in the most appalling conditions.
Firefighters in western Russia are trying to put out flames at an oil depot in Belgorod, which Moscow says was hit early this morning by missiles fired from Ukrainian helicopters. Ukraine's defence ministry would neither confirm nor deny it was behind the attack. Belgorod is just across the Ukrainian border. The Kremlin said the attack might hinder peace talks. From Moscow, here's Jenny Hill.
What's really interesting about this is the rest of the Russian response so far, which has been tonally very, very muted. And that's surprising because ordinarily Moscow seizes any opportunity it can to frame Ukraine as an aggressor. One of the speculations that's possible, I suppose, is that if this is genuinely a successful Ukrainian attack on Russian territory, the Russians, having boasted of their air superiority over the region, might well be feeling rather humiliated.
The United Nations has said a 2-month truce, starting on Saturday, has been agreed by warring parties in Yemen. The news has come on the second day of peace talks in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. The United Nations Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, outlined some of the details of the truce, which will help much-needed humanitarian aid reach civilians.
The parties accepted to halt all offensive military air, ground and maritime operations inside Yemen and across its borders. They also agreed for fuel ships to enter into Udaydah port and commercial flights to operate in and out of Sana'a airport to predetermined destinations in the region.
For the first time, workers at an Amazon warehouse in the United States have voted to set up a trade union. Staff at the site in Staten Island in New York started to campaign for a union following a dispute over COVID safety rules 2 years ago. The online retailer has strongly resisted efforts to unionise. This is the World News from the BBC. The Biden administration has confirmed that it will lift sweeping immigration restrictions, which were imposed by Donald Trump in the early stages of the pandemic. The public health order known as Title 42 has been used by U.S. officials on the border with Mexico to turn back 1.7 million undocumented migrants. President Biden's decision to continue the policy had come under sustained criticism. For the first time in 3 months, a United Nations convoy in Ethiopia carrying urgently needed food aid has arrived in the Tigrayan capital, Mekelle. The UN Food Programme said 13 trucks had arrived safely and more would follow on Saturday. Kalkidan Yibeltal is in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa.
Since December, there hasn't been any delivery of it, at least on the road. There have been flights to Tigray, but, the flights are not enough because the scope of the need is huge. Around 6 million people are believed to be in desperate need of aid, and hundreds of thousands are believed to be facing famine. So there have been, these accusations and counter-accusations about who was blocking the aid. But for the people who are trapped in Tigray, they were desperately waiting for this rare good news. It's the first step of what we're hoping to be more aid being provided for these people.
A state of emergency has been declared in Sri Lanka, where an economic crisis has sparked violent protests. A curfew is in place for a second consecutive night. There's growing anger at shortages of fuel, medicine and other basics caused by a lack of foreign exchange. Power cuts of 13 hours a day have been imposed. The draw for this year's Football World Cup has taken place in the Qatari capital Doha. The host Qatar will play Ecuador in the opening match of the tournament, which will be held in the Middle East for the first time. The defending champions France meet Denmark in their first game. The event starts in November. BBC News.